Hello fellow gamers, today we have a game with Combatineffective in his T54 Mod 1. He is top tier. We are on, is this Mountain Pass? Yes, Mountain Pass. And so let's go ahead and get it started and we'll talk a little bit about the Mod 1. The Mod 1 has, in this matchmaking, is a really strong tank. It's fairly fast. It's got incredible armor. I want to say it's got the T54 upper plate on the hull. The lower plate is even hard to pen unless you have 190 or better penetration. The turret is very strong. There are a couple of weak spots, but for the most part, it is very strong. And it's got pretty good DPM. The gun handling isn't quite as good as on the T44, and it's just a smidgen slower than the T44. But other than that, it's got the armor to back it up, and you're going to see that in this game. So he sees a light tank went down here, and he can almost come down here with impunity. And he's able to hit the light tank and then ram him. He's up to 400 damage that quick, and he takes out their light tank. So they got a Unicum Type 64. We're going to see him later in the game, but as soon as Combat squares his armor up, there is no way that guy's going to pen him. So, and 1357 shows up. He gets a nice snapshot. This thing does not snapshot very well, in my opinion. I've played it on his account, and I don't feel like it snapshots all that well. But he's just kind of bullying middle here, and which isn't necessarily a spot that I like to go with the Mod 1. But being most of his team went around the horn, they're coming up on one line. It's kind of okay to have a presence there. So they've got, the enemy team has decided to send a lot of guys down the ice road. Ice road is generally a bad play. It's facing tanks face to face. Luckily, Combat has some side shots here, and he's putting his DPM to work. This also has really quite good DPM. It's just a little bit lower than the T44, but it's still very high DPM. So he's shooting at the side. I don't know if he knows it, but you can ammo rack Tigers by shooting them in the side like that. Just right about where he's shooting them. And his side armor is 120, I want to say. So if you angle, 30 degrees, you can bait a lot of shots into your tracks that do not pin. So with that guy dispatched, he's moving up. I'm not sure I agree with this because I've done it before, but you're moving into a crossfire, especially with a KV2. You don't really want to face up a KV2. Fortunately, the KV2 doesn't seem all that interested in shooting at him that much. But now he's in a crossfire between a KV2 and a KV85. Now that KV85 can pen him, especially at the angle he's at, especially if he hits the front drive wheel, but he's really got to aim, and that KV85 he's more interested in shooting at the spec. So I don't know what that KV2 was shooting at, but if we can get rid of him, then this KV85 is meat. So, and straight on, that KV85 is going to have to get a really lucky shot. So now the KV85 is pretty much alone. There is a Type 64 coming up behind Combat, but he's got some time to go ahead and put some shots into this guy. I think I would have rushed the guy probably and hit his tracks again just to make sure he was perma-tracked, but he decides not to do that. Either way, it's a decent play. And he's able to take out the KV85. Another thing that's funny is that Artie has not really been after him, and you would think, he's a top tier, he's out in the open. Maybe Artie can't shoot over that hill. I really don't know, because I don't play Artie. So So combat's going back to base, which is, I believe, the right call here. With a Type 64, if that Type 64 can get behind the M44, then he'll kill the M44, and then he could just cap them out as they're traveling towards the base, the enemy base. So the SU-100Y is rightly so saying you guys should stick together, but you know you can't determine what your teammates are going to do. So he just continues to make the right call. He's going to have arty support. He's going to have his own cap defended until that Type 64 dies. There's always a threat of that. So this thing is fairly fast. It probably could get back, but if you get over to where the M4A1 was last spotted, he would have big trouble getting back. So I think it's a good call to stay closer to base and just kind of see what happens, because he's basically full health here, and he's telling the SU-122-44, you know, why are you pushing? So now he's making a call to go support his teammate, which I don't know. Sometimes your teammates get themselves into a position that they, you know, it's kind of silly. They get, you know, why is he going to push into a tier 8 and arty? But nevertheless, Combat decides he's going to be a team player and go try and help him out. I would bet that Type 64 is still lurking around the area where he was last spotted. That's just a guess. And lo and behold, the Sturwaffenträger or whatever is over here. So he loads HE, knowing, which is a good call. He knows that this guy has no armor. And he does take a hit from the Type 64 and another hit, but he rams this guy for 200 damage, and he's able to take him out with his last shot and get safe from the Type 64. So that was a good play there. So now what do you do from this point? I mean, you've got a Type 64 on one side, which is fine. You know, that thing is no challenge if you can face him frontally, but you have 2 tanks and an arty to contend with here. So Combat decides, he thinks that the Revelries is going to come down the ice road, which, you know, it's not a terrible call. But that guy's been camping in base the entire game. To me, it's kind of funny. One other thing, being we do have XVM, I noticed that this Type 64, he is a Unicum, or close to a Unicum, but he is, he's a reroll. He's got a 0,000 games, and I bet you if you look at his account, all he's got is that Type 64. So he's probably quite good at the Type 64, but the Type 64 versus a Mod 1 is just not a fair fight. That Mod 1, even in a very unskilled player's hands, is going to wipe the floor with that Type 64. And it also tells you a lot of times people that reroll and only play one tank are not as skilled as they might look in their win 8. I've noticed that. So what he doesn't want to do is give his rear to that Revelries, and so he's going to go check and make sure that Revelries is not following him, because he was lit. And the Revelries doesn't have much of a chance one-on-one either. I have it. It's a great tank at distance, and sure enough, there he is. But it's got no armor at all, and it's got kind of low DPM. And so this is pretty hilarious. He just flips out Revelries. And quite frankly, I think at this point he probably should have killed arty. That's what I would have done, but he's just trying for maximum damage, maybe, I don't know. And as soon as you take a hit from that Type 64, it's time to take him out. So I think he forgets that he's auto-aimed here and is trying to turn his turret and does not turn it, but that Type 64 overstays his welcome. And he already does kind of the right thing, getting up close and trying to shotgun him. But I don't think there's, with the armor on that Type 60, with the armor on the Mod 1, I don't think there was any chance he was going to one-shot him. His only hope was that he tracked him and damaged him, and he might be able to get away or save the Type 64. So that is 5,600 damage, 2,700 blocked, and 800 spotting. So that's a fantastic game. Congratulations to you, Combat. Let's go ahead and look at the after action report. Okay, here we are at the after action report. Unsurprisingly, that's an ace tanker. Do 5,600 damage in any tier 8, you're doing well. Naden's medal, he destroyed all 3 light tanks. That's kind of an uncommon medal to get these days. A steel wall, unsurprisingly, for his 2,700 blocked. High caliber and a top gun for his 7 kills. That netted him 1,814 base XP. That's quite the total there. That's amazing. And the rest of his team is SU-100Y, tier 6, did 1,300 damage. That's actually quite good. And then the rest of the team didn't do so hot, which is kind of what it takes in order to get a great game like that. Their Revelry sat back in base. He may have done 2,500 damage, but he was doing his team no favors. There is a way to play the Revelries a little bit more aggressive and help your team out before they die. However, he just sat in base, which is a bad idea. Type 64 did 1,700 damage. That's amazing in a tier 8 game. So, looks like he shot 29 times, hit 25, and penned 24. So that's actually a pretty good ratio. And he ended up making, with a premium account, 129,000 credits. And he ended up with 29, almost 3,000 XP out of that game. So that's excellent game. We appreciate you sending that in, Combat. And I'm going to start putting in the description my my email address, so that if you want to send in your replay, maybe you'll get it on my channel. We only have 15 subscribers, but tell your friends and share these videos, and we'll get some more subscribers going. Appreciate all of you that have subscribed, and we'll catch you on the next one.